So we've been assembling the chassis on the S71 Oldsmobile. Last time you saw the frame, it had just gotten painted black. And now we've already went ahead and installed some of the Global West suspension components. And the reason why we did that, rather than show you a nut and bolt installation on these, we already did a Global West tubular suspension install on our 69 Chevelle SS 496. You can just go to our website at V8TV-Show.com and search Global West, and you'll see the videos that show you specifically how to put this stuff together. But this time, I did want to show you that we used a slightly different configuration of suspension on this car from Global West. And what we did is we're using what's called their negative roll system, which utilizes tall spindles. And this also uses the Delalume bushings. So what's different here is the geometry of the front suspension on this car is different from any other car we've done because it's got a slightly different application. This particular car is going to see a lot of street driving and some possible road course and autocross kind of stuff. So we wanted something that was going to handle the best in the twisties instead of more in a straight line like other cars that we've done. So that's where this negative roll system comes in from Global West. And the main component of the geometry change is this spindle. And this is known as a GM tall spindle. It makes, the tall part comes in because the point from here to here is, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches taller than the stock spindle that was on this car. So by making this distance greater, it ends up making the control arms a little more parallel, and then as they go through their travel, the effect on the rotor and on the wheel is much less drastic as far as how the alignment changes as you go through turns and go over bumps. So Global West retails these spindles. These we actually got from Baer as part of this Baer front disc brake kit. So these kind of came pre-assembled, and all you do is basically just throw them on. It was nice and easy. But all the rest of the parts you're looking at, except for the shock absorbers, are straight from Global West. Now we're using their control arms, which again are a heavy wall, TIG welded tubular control arm. Very, very nice stuff, very well done. The lower control arms underneath, I don't know if you can see in this hole, these are their Delalume bushings, which are made from Delran, which is kind of like a nylon almost. It's almost kind of plasticky. And they've got an aluminum sleeve inside. And when you put those together, it allows the control arms to articulate very, very smoothly up and down, and they're greasable, and there's no chance of anything binding. The other component of these upper control arms is a special ball joint that's designed to work with the tall spindle. So everything is designed to work together and be smooth. So this is all part of their negative roll system, and that's a question. What does negative roll mean? Well, basically it changes the camber as the suspension articulates. And camber would be, you can see looking at this rotor, it's standing straight up and down basically. This top part is basically straight over the bottom part. Well, if we were to kick this out or tip this in, either way, that's a camber change. And because of the design of the suspension system, when it goes through its travel, that camber changes, and it's noticeable when you have a new technology, wide, flat tire. When you go through turns, if the camber doesn't work with the tires, you end up losing your contact patch on the ground, and that means lost traction. So this is designed to kind of roll with the curves and keep that tire planted flat on the ground when you're hitting bumps or going through high-speed turns, and that's basically what we want. We want stability and something that inspires confidence and doesn't get rickety. Other parts are this big sway bar we've got up in front here. Global West uses their sway bar mounts that are kind of interesting. They have this articulating spherical rod end on the bottom and then a urethane bushing up on top. These are Global West lowering springs. This car will be lowered not real drastically, about 1.5 inches, I think, in the front. We decided to reuse the original steering box on the car because this came with Oldsmobile's FE2 steering and suspension package, which is a really good feeling quick ratio steering box. So this one, we kind of went through it and it's all detailed up and ready to rock. The rest of the steering is reproduction stuff, new stuff from year one, which we used our Eastwood powder coat kit to give it a long-lasting finish that looks like clean cast iron. And then you'll see these really big tie rod ends here on the end. And these are from Baer. I don't know if I can turn that so you can see, but the Baer logo's up here. These are called Baer trackers. And what these do is they allow you to keep the front suspension steering geometry correct if you lower the car. These tie rod ends, it's hard to tell now because the car is in droop with no weight on it, but you want these things to be parallel with the control arms and basically parallel with the ground as you go down the road. But a lot of times if you lower a car, this spindle comes up higher. So these have some adjustable spacers and like a monoball type ball joint on the end here, which allow you to switch these around in whatever order you need to make sure that this arm comes in at the proper geometry. It's a nice little feature. It prevents bump steer, and bump steer happens when that geometry is incorrect and you hit a bump and the wheels point towards each other as you go over a bump when the suspension compresses. So the correct geometry will minimize that bump steer. Bump steer is bad, obviously. You can lose control. You don't want that. So this stuff goes together pretty simply. The Baer stuff is nice because this came pre-assembled. The hub, the rotor, the spindle, the caliper was already put together, greased, Loctited right out of the box. All we did, we took this caliper off because we're gonna do a little powder coating up there, but it goes together real simply. And next we just gotta finish up the rear suspension.